across the polished mahogany table in my dining room, the very table where my son and I had shared thousands of meals. I met his eyes and spoke the single word that would unravel everything. No. My name is Richard Morrison. I'm 68 years old and I devoted 42 years of my life to working as an architect in Denver, Colorado. I designed schools, libraries, community centers, structures built to endure. I believed I was creating something enduring with my son as well. I was mistaken. Let me take you back 6 months before that moment. It was a Tuesday morning in March, when my phone rang. Seeing Marcus's name on the screen wasn't unusual. The tone in his voice was. He sounded electrified. "Dad, I've got unbelievable news. Veronica and I just closed on a house. You've got to see it." That familiar surge of pride filled my chest. The quiet joy every parent feels when their child seems to be thriving. Marcus was 37, successful in commercial real estate. 3 years earlier, he'd married Veronica, a poised, polished woman from an affluent Connecticut family. I had paid for their wedding, $50,000. Her parents had contributed nothing, blaming vague complications with a family trust. "That's fantastic, son. Where is it?" "Cherry Creek, 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, mountain views. It even has a wine cellar." Cherry Creek, one of Denver's most exclusive neighborhoods. A faint knot tightened in my stomach, but I ignored it. He was doing well. He could manage it. "It sounds beautiful. I'm proud of you. Can you come by this weekend? We're hosting a small get-together. Just close friends and family." That Saturday, I drove to the address Marcus had sent. The moment I pulled up, I stopped breathing for a second. The house wasn't merely impressive. It was a declaration. Glass and steel framed the structure. Sharp lines and open space defining every angle. It was the sort of home featured in glossy magazines, the kind I once imagined designing myself. Veronica opened the door, dressed in what I'd come to recognize as Chanel. With her, every outfit carried a label I was expected to notice. "Richard, come in. Isn't it magnificent?" She had never once called me Dad, always Richard. Inside, the place was even more striking. Towering ceilings stretched overhead, Italian marble gleamed under the light, and every detail was custom-made. Instinctively, I calculated the cost. In Cherry Creek, with finishes like these, the property had to be at least $1.2 million, likely more. Marcus led me through the house, pointing out details with the eager pride of a child showing off a trophy. The smart home automation, the heated floors, the fully equipped outdoor kitchen. I kept smiling, nodding in approval, though the knot in my stomach pulled tighter with every step. In the kitchen, Veronica poured wine, an expensive bottle, as she made certain to mention. A 2015 Chateau Margaux, $200 a bottle. "So Dad, what do you think?" Marcus asked. "It's beautiful, son. Truly impressive. I knew you'd love it." He exchanged a glance with Veronica. Quick, subtle, loaded with something I couldn't quite decipher. "Actually, there's something we wanted to talk to you about." There it is, I thought. We settled into the living room. Veronica positioned herself on a pristine white sofa that likely cost more than the first car I ever owned. Marcus leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees, the posture of someone about to present a proposal. "Dad, I've always appreciated everything you've done for me. Paying for college, the wedding, everything." I gave a small nod and waited. "This house is a major step for us. The mortgage is significant, $900,000. My jaw tightened, but I kept silent. "The thing is," Marcus continued, "Veronica and I have been talking. You're 68 now. You've got your retirement account from the firm, your pension, Social Security. You've told me yourself you've saved nearly $2 million. My pulse began to hammer in my ears. "Marcus, where exactly is this heading?" Veronica leaned in slightly, her tone measured but firm. "Richard, you have to see this from our perspective. In my family, parents help their children get properly established. That's simply what families do. I paid for your education," I replied evenly. "I paid for your wedding, and we're grateful for that," Marcus said quickly. "But this is different. This is about securing our future, our children's future." "You don't have children," I reminded him. "Not yet," Veronica said, her voice losing its warmth. "But when we do, they'll need the right environment, the right schools, the right neighborhood." Marcus reached for his phone and opened a calculator. Dad, just hear me out. If you could help us with $300,000, it would drastically lower our monthly payments. We'd pay you back. Eventually. I studied him then. Really studied him. When had he changed into someone I barely recognized? I thought about the little boy who used to stand beside me in my workshop, captivated by how beams locked together and foundations were poured. I remembered teaching him that every structure depends on solid footing. I remembered him once saying he wanted to grow up and be just like me. No, I said. The air in the room froze. Veronica's face tightened instantly. Marcus stared at me as if I'd spoken another language. What do you mean no? I mean I'm not giving you $300,000. But you have it, Veronica shot back, her voice cutting now. You just said you've saved $2 million. That's my retirement, Veronica. That's what I spent 42 years building. Marcus pushed himself to his feet. Dad, I'm not asking for all of it. Marcus insisted. Just enough to help us get comfortable. You are comfortable, I shot back. You earn $180,000 a year. That's more than I ever made. That's not the point, Veronica snapped. The point is what family is supposed to do for each other. I rose from my chair. Family? Let me explain something about family. The family is raising your son alone after his mother dies. The family is working 60-hour weeks so he can afford college. Family is teaching him how to stand on his own 2 feet, instead of reaching into someone else's pocket. So that's it. Marcus's voice climbed higher. After everything, you're just turning your back on us? I'm not turning my back on anyone, I replied steadily. I'm saying no to a demand that makes neither financial nor moral sense. Then I walked out. I drove home in complete silence, my hands trembling against the steering wheel. That was 3 months ago. For 2 weeks, Marcus didn't call. Then an envelope arrived. It was from a downtown Denver law firm, Hutchins & Reeves, attorneys at law. I opened it at my kitchen table, a cup of coffee beside me that turned cold as I read. They were suing me. Marcus and Veronica were demanding $600,000. The accusation was outrageous. They claimed I had verbally promised to contribute to their home purchase. Over the years I had assured Marcus his inheritance was secure, and that I intended to help him and his future wife get established. They argued that my refusal had caused them significant emotional distress and financial strain. I read the letter 3 times. Then I picked up the phone and called my attorney. James Peterson had managed my estate planning for 2 decades. He'd known my late wife, Margaret. He'd seen Marcus grow from a boy into a man. When I finished reading the lawsuit to him, there was a long, heavy pause on the other end. Richard, I'm sorry. Can they actually do this? Anyone can file a claim, proving it is something else. Did you ever promise them money toward that house? Never. Not once. Years ago I told Marcus I'd worked hard to secure my own future, but I never guaranteed him anything beyond what I'd already given. Good. Then we fight it. Just understand it won't be cheap. How bad? Legal fees could reach $25,000, maybe $30,000, more if it goes to trial. I shut my eyes for a moment. Do it. What followed were months I wouldn't wish on anyone. Depositions. Endless document requests. Interrogatories. I had to surrender bank statements, retirement records, and every financial detail of my life. Marcus and Veronica's attorney was young, polished, and relentless. She questioned me as though I were some greedy old man cheating his own son. The deposition was the hardest part. We sat across from each other in a sterile conference room, and Marcus wouldn't even look at me. The attorney's questions were precise, rehearsed, designed to paint me as a miser clinging to wealth while my son suffered. Mr. Morrison, isn't it correct that you have approximately $1.9 million in retirement savings? Yes, and isn't it also correct that your son has never asked you for financial assistance before this? That's not accurate. I funded his college education and paid for his wedding. But those were gifts, correct? Not loans? They were a father helping his son. So you've established a history of providing financial support? Objection, James said firmly. But I understood exactly what they were building toward. They were building the argument that I had fostered an expectation that my past support guaranteed future funding. Then Marcus gave his deposition. I wasn't present, but James later handed me the transcript. Reading it felt worse than sitting in that conference room myself. My son had told friends, colleagues, even Veronica's family, that I was contributing to the house. He'd spoken about it as if it were already arranged. Why were you so certain your father would give you $300,000? The attorney had asked him. Because he always has, Marcus replied. He's always shown up for me. I just assumed this would be no different. Assumed. He had structured his financial future around an assumption. But the story didn't end there. James hired an investigator to examine Marcus and Veronica's financial records. What we uncovered changed everything. In the 6 months leading up to the home purchase, Veronica had spent $47,000, designer wardrobes, a brand new car, a vacation in Paris. At the same time, Marcus's commission income had declined. 2 significant deals had fallen through. They weren't drowning because of the mortgage. They were drowning because they refused to live within their means. James filed a motion to dismiss the case. The judge denied it. We were headed to trial. The night before the hearing, sleep wouldn't come. I sat alone in my study, the same room where I'd once helped Marcus with algebra homework, where we'd talked about his ambitions and the man he hoped to become. On my desk sat a framed photograph from his college graduation. His arm was slung around my shoulders, both of us smiling like the future was nothing but possibility. I picked up the frame and ran my finger gently along the outline of his face. Where had I failed him? My thoughts drifted to Margaret. She passed away when Marcus was 12, breast cancer. It took her 8 cruel months. Before she left us, she made me promise I would look after him, raise him properly, and make sure he grew into a good man. I did my best. God knows I did. But that night in my study, another memory surfaced. Words she'd spoken that I had buried. We were sitting in her hospital room, about a week before the end. She was so frail she could barely lift her head from the pillow. Richard, promise me one more thing. Anything. Don't let him take you for granted. I see it sometimes. The way he just expects things. He's young. Maybe he'll outgrow it. But if he doesn't, you have to be strong enough to teach him. I had given her my word, but had I honored it? Or had I made things worse by always stepping in, always saying yes, always cushioning every fall? The day of the hearing arrived. I wore my best suit, the charcoal gray one I had worn at Marcus's wedding. The courtroom was smaller than I imagined, almost intimate. Only a handful of people sat in the gallery. A few of Marcus and Veronica's friends, my neighbor Frank, who had quietly come to stand by me. Marcus and Veronica took their seats at the plaintiff's table. Marcus looked thinner than I remembered, his face drawn. Veronica looked furious, her jaw tight, her eyes cold. The judge presiding over the case was in her 60s, Judge Patricia Hendris, known for her straightforward, no-nonsense approach. The plaintiff's attorney delivered her opening remarks, portraying me as a wealthy father who had abandoned his son in a moment of hardship. She painted a picture of me as some miser hoarding savings while my struggling child suffered. Then James rose. Your Honor, this case is about entitlement. It is about 2 adults who made reckless financial choices and now expect the defendant, a 68-year-old retired man, to shield them from the consequences of those decisions. The plaintiff is a successful real estate agent earning a 6-figure income. His wife comes from substantial means. They made a conscious choice to purchase a $1.2 million home, fully aware they could not reasonably manage the mortgage, James continued. And when the defendant, who had already financed his son's college education and wedding, refused to withdraw $300,000 from his retirement savings, they chose to sue him. Over the next 2 days, the evidence unfolded piece by piece. Marcus's income records, credit card statements detailing Veronica's spending, testimony from Marcus's co-worker confirming he had confidently told them I would fund the house before he had ever asked me. Then came the part I had been dreading. I took the stand. The plaintiff's attorney didn't ease into it. Mr. Morrison, do you love your son? Yes. Do you want him to succeed? Of course. Then why refuse to help him? I steadied myself before answering. Because covering the cost of a home he cannot afford isn't helping. It's empowering. Enabling what? Enabling him to keep making choices without facing consequences. Enabling him to believe there will always be someone there to rescue him. How convenient, she replied smoothly. You rebrand selfishness as a life lesson. Objection, James said. Sustained, the judge answered. But the implication lingered in the air. The question echoed in my own mind. Was I standing firm as a father, or hiding behind principle to protect myself? Then James approached for a redirect. Mr. Morrison, during your 42 years as an architect, did any of your projects ever fail? Yes. And when did they? I analyzed what went wrong. I corrected it. I made sure I didn't repeat the mistake. Did anyone step in to rescue you financially? No. What might have happened if they had? I paused. I wouldn't have learned anything. I would have repeated the same errors. After I stepped down, the tension in the room felt almost visible. The judge motioned both attorneys forward. They conferred in hushed tones for several long minutes before she leaned back in her chair and looked directly at me. Mr. Morrison, I'd like to ask you something personally. Yes, Your Honor. Did you ever at any point put in writing that you would give your son money toward purchasing a house? No. Did you ever verbally promise him money for that purpose? No, Your Honor. Years ago I told him I had worked hard to secure my retirement. I never offered him access to those funds. She gave a slow, measured nod. Then her attention shifted. Mr. Morrison, the younger one, please stand. Marcus rose, his face drained of color. I have reviewed the evidence and heard the testimony, she said. I have a question for you. When you chose to purchase a home you could not comfortably afford, did you understand you were risking your own financial stability? Marcus hesitated. Your Honor, did you also consider that your father at 68 years old depends on his retirement savings for his own security? Silence. Did you consider that filing a lawsuit against him could irreparably harm your relationship? Yes, Marcus murmured. Then why proceed? Marcus glanced at Veronica. She kept her eyes forward, her expression unyielding. I thought, he said finally, his voice unsteady. I thought he owed me. Judge Hendris removed her glasses and set them carefully on the bench. Let me make something very clear, she said. Your father does not owe you anything. He raised you. He provided for you. He ensured you were educated and prepared for adulthood. What you choose to do with those opportunities is your responsibility. She replaced her glasses. This case is dismissed. In addition, the judge continued, the plaintiffs are ordered to reimburse the defendant's legal fees, which I understand total approximately $27,000. This matter is concluded. The gavel struck. I remained seated, stunned. I had prevailed, but there was no satisfaction in it. Marcus and Veronica walked out without so much as a glance in my direction. I watched them leave. My son's shoulders were slumped. Veronica's heels echoed sharply against the marble floor. Frank gave my back a firm pat. You did it, Richard. You beat them. But had I? I may have won the lawsuit, but what had it cost me? That evening, James came by the house. We sat in my study, each of us nursing a glass of scotch. After a long pause, he spoke. There's something you should be aware of, something Margaret arranged before she passed. I looked up sharply. What are you talking about? She created a trust, separate from your will. It's for Marcus. My stomach tightened. How much? 500,000. It becomes available when he turns 40. I stared at him. There are conditions, I assume. Yes. He must demonstrate financial responsibility. No bankruptcies. No lawsuits against family members. And he must reconcile with you. My eyes stung. She knew. James gave a small nod. She was thoughtful. She wanted to provide for him, but only if he became the man she believed he could be. I sat with that for a long time. 2 years went by. I heard nothing from Marcus, except through attorneys coordinating the repayment of my legal fees. He paid in small, deliberate installments, sometimes just $100 at a time. $27,000, slowly and methodically returned. It felt petty, but it was repayment nonetheless. Then one Tuesday morning in October, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Marcus was standing there. He held a plain paper bag in his hand. He looked older than his years, worn down, exhausted. Can I come in? I moved aside without a word. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I had opened the lawsuit 2 years earlier, and felt my world tilt. Marcus reached into the paper bag and pulled out a thermos. I remember you always liked that coffee from Pablo's. I brought some. I didn't respond. I'm sorry, Dad. 2 simple words. They settled heavily between us. Veronica and I divorced, he added quietly. 6 months ago. I'm sorry to hear that. He gave a short, humorless laugh. Don't be. It's probably the best thing that could have happened. She was seeing her personal trainer. For more than a year, a complicated feeling rose in me. Part vindication, part sorrow. We lost the house, he went on. Couldn't keep up with the payments. I'm renting a small 2-bedroom place in Lakewood now. How are you holding up? I asked. Honestly, better than I deserve. I started therapy, trying to unpack some things, trying to understand how I got here. Understand what? For the first time since he'd arrived, he looked directly at me. That I became someone I'm ashamed of. A man who sued his own father. A man who believed he was entitled to whatever he wanted. I poured coffee from the thermos into 2 mugs. It was still warm. I've replayed what you said in court, Marcus continued. About enabling. About consequences. You were right. If you'd handed me that money, I wouldn't have learned a thing. I would have kept overspending. Kept assuming someone would always step in. But now, I'm figuring it out on my own. I'm rebuilding. Starting from scratch. It's not easy, but it's real. We sat there quietly for a long moment. The silence no longer hostile, just heavy with everything that had passed between us. We sat there quietly, sipping coffee. Can I ask you something? Marcus said at last. Anything. Why didn't you ever tell me about the trust, the one Mom created? So he knew. Your lawyer mentioned it. James called me last week, said I'm getting close to 40, told me there was something I should be aware of, something I could access if I met certain conditions. I gave a small nod. Your mother was wiser than either of us. She understood that one day you might need help, but she also believed you had to grow into the kind of man worthy of receiving it. His eyes filled. I miss her. So do I, son. Every single day. He reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. I noticed how large it felt. When had that happened? When had the boy I raised become this man sitting across from me? I've got 3 months before I turn 40, he said. I'm going to use that time to prove to you I've changed, to show you I can be someone you're proud of again. I never stopped being proud of you, Marcus, I told him softly. Even when I was angry, even when I was hurt. You're my son. He tightened his grip on my hand. Can I come back? Not for money. Not for anything like that. Just for this. Coffee. Conversation. Time. Something inside my chest loosened, something that had been clenched shut for 2 long years. I'd like that, I said. Now 6 months later, Marcus shows up every Tuesday morning. We drink coffee from Pablo's and talk about his job, about the work he's doing in therapy, about the slow process of rebuilding a life. Some mornings we share memories of his mother. Other times we simply sit together. The silence easy and familiar. He's seeing someone new. Her name is Sarah. She's a teacher. She drives a Honda Civic and shops at Target. And when he speaks about her, his eyes shine in a way I never once saw when he talked about Veronica. Last week he brought her to meet me. She sat across from me, clearly anxious, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Mr. Morrison, she began softly. Marcus told me everything that happened. I just want you to know, I'm not that kind of person. I don't care about big houses or luxury or any of that. I gave her a gentle smile. Call me Richard, I said. And I believe you. I can tell by the way he looks at you. After they walked out the door, I remained in my study, staring at the framed photo from Marcus's graduation. For years, that picture stood alone. Now, another frame sits beside it, one from last month at the Denver Botanic Gardens. Marcus has his arm around my shoulders. We're both smiling like we finally understand something we didn't before. Being a good father sometimes means saying yes. Yes to love. Yes to support. Yes to simply showing up. But other times, it means saying no. No to entitlement. No to excuses. No to making life so comfortable that your child never discovers their own strength. 3 years ago, I said no to my son. And it cost me more than I ever imagined. Our closeness, my peace of mind, my confidence that I was doing the right thing. But without that painful no, we would never have found this yes. This quiet Tuesday morning tradition. This slow rebuilding. This second chance. Margaret would be proud. Not necessarily of the decision I made, but of the man Marcus became because of it. My name is Richard Morrison. I'm 71 years old, a retired architect, a father, and I've learned that sometimes the strongest structures aren't the ones that stand untouched. They're the ones that collapse and are rebuilt, brick by brick from the ground up. My son and I, we're building something new now, something steady, something that will last. If this story meant something to you, don't forget to subscribe to A Father's Wrath for more stories about family, forgiveness, and second chances. And let me know in the comments, what would you have done in my place?